Hello there, sleepy soul. Tonight, we are going to explore one of the most beautiful things your body already knows how to do. We are going to talk about trust. Not as an idea, not as a promise between people, but as something far older and far quieter than words. Trust as chemistry. Trust as a signal that moves through your nervous system like a gentle wave, telling every muscle and every thought that it is safe to let go. You do not need to remember any of this. You do not need to pay attention. These are just quiet facts about how your body already knows how to feel safe. And if they carry you gently into sleep, then they have done exactly what they were meant to do. If this channel has ever helped you find a little peace at the end of the day, perhaps a like or a subscribe might help another sleepy soul find their way here, too. So settle in, let your body find its favorite position, and whenever you are ready, let us begin with the quiet science of trust. Oxytocin is sometimes called the trust molecule. Deep inside your brain, there is a small structure called the hypothalamus. It is no bigger than an almond, and yet it governs some of the most profound experiences you will ever have. One of its quietest creations is a molecule called oxytocin, a tiny chain of just 9 amino acids that scientists have come to call the trust molecule. Oxytocin does not shout. It does not demand attention. It simply appears in your bloodstream during moments of warmth and connection. When you hold someone's hand, when you hear a familiar voice, when you feel that someone genuinely cares. Researchers at the University of Zurich found that when oxytocin levels rise, the brain's willingness to trust increases in ways that are both measurable and profound. Imagine a single candle being lit in a dark room. That is what oxytocin does to your nervous system. It does not flood you with light. It simply offers a small, steady glow that says you are not alone. Perhaps you might notice the weight of your body settling a little deeper into wherever you are resting right now. There is no rush, just a quiet beginning. And like that single candle, this is where our journey starts. With the softest molecule your brain knows how to make. Your hypothalamus produces oxytocin in tiny, gentle pulses. The hypothalamus does not release oxytocin in a flood. Instead, it sends it out in small, rhythmic pulses, like a heartbeat made of chemistry. Each pulse lasts only a few seconds, and yet each one carries a message that reaches far beyond the brain. These pulses travel through the bloodstream to the heart, the gut, the muscles, and the skin. They arrive quietly, without fanfare, and they gently lower the body's state of alertness. Scientists have measured these pulses during moments of nursing, of embracing, and of simply sitting close to someone who feels safe. It is as though your brain has its own quiet rhythm of reassurance, a tiny drumbeat of comfort that plays beneath every moment of connection you have ever known. Perhaps your forehead has softened just a little. Perhaps the space behind your eyes feels a touch more still. These are small things, and they are enough. When someone trusts you, your brain releases oxytocin in return. Paul Zak, a neuroscientist at Claremont Graduate University, spent 8 years studying what happens in the brain when trust is exchanged between two people. What he found was remarkably simple and remarkably beautiful. When someone places their trust in you, when they confide in you, or rely on you, or simply choose to be vulnerable in your presence, your brain responds by releasing oxytocin. And here is the gentle part. That oxytocin does not just make you feel good. It makes you want to be worthy of the trust that was given. It creates a quiet feedback loop. Trust given, oxytocin released, trust returned. That deepens with every exchange. It is like two people passing a lantern back and forth across a bridge. Each time it changes hands, the light grows a little warmer, and the bridge feels a little more solid. Somewhere in your chest, there may be a softness you did not notice before. That is all right. Let it be there. Oxytocin quiets the amygdala, your brain's alarm system. The amygdala is a pair of small, almond-shaped structures deep in the center of your brain. Their job is to scan the world for danger, to notice the unexpected sound, the unfamiliar face, the shadow that moves when nothing should be moving. The amygdala is your brain's alarm system, and it is very good at its job. But when oxytocin arrives, something remarkable happens. The alarm system does not shut down entirely. It simply turns the volume down. The amygdala becomes less reactive. The threshold for triggering a fear response rises. Things that might have felt threatening a moment ago begin to feel neutral, or even safe. Researchers using functional brain scans have watched this happen in real time. As oxytocin levels rise, the amygdala's activity dims, like a lighthouse whose beam softens as the storm passes. Perhaps you might notice your jaw releasing just a fraction. Perhaps the muscles around your temples have eased. Your body's own alarm system may be turning its volume down right now. Even as you listen, a warm hug can trigger oxytocin release in just 20 seconds. Researchers have found that it takes approximately 20 seconds of sustained, gentle physical contact for the brain to begin releasing oxytocin in meaningful amounts. 20 seconds. That is the length of a slow, deep breath. That is the time it takes for a hug to shift from polite to genuine. During those 20 seconds, pressure receptors in the skin send signals along the vagus nerve to the brain. The hypothalamus responds by releasing oxytocin, which in turn lowers cortisol, slows the heart rate, and gently reduces blood pressure. It is as though your body has a built-in timer for comfort, and all it asks for is a few moments of stillness and warmth. Imagine standing in a quiet garden just after rain. The air is cool, the earth smells rich and clean, and there is nothing at all that requires your attention. That is what 20 seconds of trust can feel like inside your body. Paul Zak spent 8 years studying how trust changes brain chemistry. Paul Zak did not set out to study trust. He set out to study economics, the way people make decisions about money, risk, and cooperation. But what he kept finding, again and again, was that the chemical that predicted generosity, cooperation, and kindness was not adrenaline or dopamine. It was oxytocin. Over 8 years, Zak and his team measured blood oxytocin levels in thousands of participants. They discovered that people who received signals of trust, even from strangers, showed significant oxytocin increases, and those with higher oxytocin levels were more likely to be generous, more likely to cooperate, and more likely to report feeling happy. Zak eventually wrote a book about his findings, calling oxytocin the moral molecule, but perhaps a gentler name would be the kindness molecule, or simply the molecule that says you are safe. Perhaps your hands have softened where they rest. Perhaps your fingers have uncurled, just slightly. Your body understands these things before your mind does. Oxytocin receptors are scattered across your brain like seeds in a garden. Oxytocin does not have just one destination in the brain. Its receptors, the tiny molecular locks that oxytocin fits into, are found throughout the amygdala, the nucleus accumbens, the brainstem, and the prefrontal cortex. Each region responds to oxytocin in its own way. The amygdala grows quieter. The reward centers warm gently. The brainstem adjusts the body's state of alertness. It is as though oxytocin were a gardener, and its receptors were seeds planted in every corner of the garden. When the rain comes, every seed responds, and the whole garden softens into bloom. This is why a single moment of trust can change so many things at once. It is not that one part of your brain relaxes. It is that many parts, all at once, receive the same quiet message: you are safe. Perhaps you might notice the stillness in the room around you. Perhaps that stillness has always been there, waiting for you to notice. Even thinking about someone you trust can raise your oxytocin levels. You do not need to be in the same room as someone you trust to feel the effects of that trust. Studies have shown that simply thinking about a loved one, remembering their face, their voice, the way they made you feel, can trigger a gentle rise in oxytocin. The brain, it seems, does not always distinguish between a memory of safety and the experience of safety. Both can activate the same neural pathways. Both can quiet the amygdala. Both can slow the breath and soften the muscles. It is as though your mind carries a small, portable hearth, a fire that can be kindled simply by remembering warmth. If there is someone in your life who makes you feel safe, perhaps they are with you in some quiet way right now. Perhaps the memory of their kindness is enough to settle something inside you. Dopamine helps your brain learn who to trust over time. Dopamine is often described as the brain's reward chemical, but that is only part of its story. Dopamine also serves as a teaching signal, a way for the brain to learn from experience. And one of the things it teaches is trust. Researchers at King's College London have found that dopamine plays a role in shaping what they call trust beliefs, the brain's internal model of who is safe and who is not. Each time you trust someone and that trust is honored, dopamine reinforces the neural pathway. Each positive experience makes the next act of trust a little easier. It is like a path through a forest. The first time you walk it, you have to push through undergrowth. But each time you return, the path becomes a little clearer, a little more worn, a little more familiar. Your brain keeps a quiet diary of every kindness, and dopamine is the pen. Perhaps your breathing has shifted without you noticing, a little slower, a little deeper. That is your body learning to trust this moment. Each kind interaction leaves a small chemical trace in your memory. Every time someone is gentle with you, every time a voice softens, a hand steadies, a word lands with care, your brain records that moment in a way that is more than emotional. It is chemical. Dopamine marks the experience as rewarding. Oxytocin marks it as safe. Serotonin marks it as socially meaningful. These traces are subtle. You may not remember the specific moment years from now, but your nervous system will. It will carry the imprint of that kindness in the way it responds to similar situations in the future. A little more openness, a little less hesitation, a little more willingness to let someone in. It is as though your body collects small stones of warmth, one by one, and places them along a path that leads toward peace. Perhaps your feet feel warm beneath the covers. Perhaps that warmth is enough for now. Your brain keeps a quiet record of every safe moment you have ever known. The hippocampus, the brain's memory center, does not only store facts and dates, it also stores feelings. And among the most carefully preserved are moments of safety. The evening a grandparent read you a story. The afternoon you sat in comfortable silence with a friend. The night someone stayed up with you because you could not sleep. These moments may seem small at the time, but the hippocampus holds them with extraordinary care, encoding not just the event itself, but the feeling that accompanied it. The warmth, the stillness, the quiet sense of being enough. And when your nervous system needs reassurance, it reaches into this library of safety. It does not need to think. It simply finds a memory that says you have been safe before. You can be safe again. Like a river that returns to the same quiet bend each time it rains. Your mind knows where to find peace. Serotonin rises gently when you feel you truly belong. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that most people associate with mood and happiness. But its role is far more nuanced than that. Serotonin is deeply involved in your sense of social status and belonging, your felt sense of being part of something larger than yourself. When you feel that you belong, when you are accepted, welcomed, included, serotonin levels rise. This rise does not feel like excitement or elation. It feels like settling, like a long exhale after a busy day, like coming home to a house that smells of something warm. Researchers at UCLA have found that social safety signals, the sense of being trusted and included, increase serotonin synthesis in the brain. And serotonin, in turn, helps regulate your sleep cycle, your digestion, and your overall sense of well-being. Perhaps tonight, in this quiet moment, you belong here. Perhaps that is enough for your serotonin to rise. Just a little. Social warmth and serotonin share the same quiet pathway in the brain. The dorsal raphe nucleus is a small cluster of neurons in the brainstem that produces much of the brain's serotonin. This region is sensitive to social signals, to the presence of warmth, to the absence of threat, to the quiet feeling that you are not alone. When the dorsal raphe nucleus is active, serotonin flows through the brain like a gentle tide, touching regions involved in mood, memory, and sleep. When social warmth is present, this tide rises. When isolation or distrust is present, it recedes. It is as though there is a small, hidden spring inside your brain that responds to the presence of kindness. And when that spring is fed, everything downstream grows a little greener, a little softer, a little more alive. Perhaps your eyelids feel a little heavier now. That is perfectly all right. They do not need to stay open. Trust and serotonin together help regulate your sleep cycle. Serotonin is a precursor to melatonin, the hormone that signals your body it is time to sleep. As daylight fades and serotonin converts into melatonin, your body begins its nightly transition into rest. But this process works best when the nervous system feels safe, when trust is present, when the body senses that it is in a secure environment. Serotonin synthesis is optimized, and the conversion to melatonin happens more smoothly. The result is a gentler slide into sleep, fewer awakenings during the night, and a deeper, more restorative rest. It is as though trust and serotonin work together, as two hands lowering a lamp. One steadies the base while the other turns the wick down slowly, evenly, until the room is filled with nothing but stillness. Perhaps your body is already beginning that quiet transition. There is no need to hurry it along. Endorphins are released during moments of shared laughter and closeness. Endorphins are your body's natural painkillers. Molecules that bind to the same receptors as morphine, but without any of the harm. They are released during exercise, during moments of physical warmth, and during laughter shared with people you trust. The laughter does not need to be loud. It does not need to be about anything in particular. Even a quiet chuckle shared between two people who feel safe together is enough to trigger a small release of endorphins. And that release creates a sense of warmth and mild euphoria that can last for several minutes. Robin Dunbar, an evolutionary psychologist at Oxford, has studied this effect extensively. He found that social bonding, even in its simplest forms, activates the same endorphin pathways that once helped our ancestors manage physical pain. It is as though your body wraps itself in a blanket each time you share a gentle moment with someone you trust. Perhaps your shoulders have released a little more. Perhaps the space between your shoulder blades has softened. Robin Dunbar at Oxford found that social bonding releases natural painkillers. Dunbar's research began with primates. He noticed that monkeys and apes spent enormous amounts of time grooming each other, far more than was necessary for hygiene. What he discovered was that grooming triggered endorphin release, and that this endorphin release was the glue that held social groups together. In humans, the same principle applies, but the grooming has evolved into conversation, laughter, shared meals, music, and gentle touch. Each of these activities stimulates the endorphin system, creating a neurochemical bond between individuals that goes deeper than conscious thought. It is as though every kind word, every shared silence, every moment of comfortable proximity builds an invisible thread of endorphin chemistry between two people, a thread that says we are safe together. Perhaps you can feel that invisible thread right now, connecting you to someone you care about, even across distance, even across time. The warmth you feel near someone you trust is partly endorphin chemistry. That particular feeling of warmth you experience when you are near someone you deeply trust, the one that settles in your chest and spreads outward like sunlight through curtains, is not entirely emotional. It is partly chemical. Endorphins, combined with oxytocin and a gentle reduction in cortisol, create a physiological state that the body interprets as warmth. Your blood vessels dilate slightly. Your muscles relax. Your skin temperature may actually rise by a fraction of a degree. This is why trusted company feels warm. It is not a metaphor. Your body literally heats itself in the presence of safety. Imagine a cup of tea held between both hands on a cool evening. That quiet, radiating warmth. That is what trust feels like at the molecular level. GABA is the neurotransmitter that gently slows your neurons down. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, is the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. While other neurotransmitters excite neurons and speed up signals, GABA does the opposite. It slows things down. It quiets the chatter. It turns the volume of neural activity to a softer setting. Without GABA, the brain would be a room full of voices, all speaking at once. With it, the voices take turns, grow softer, and eventually settle into a peaceful hum. GABA is essential for sleep, for relaxation, and for the ability to let go of anxious thoughts. And its activity is enhanced by one particular condition above all others: the feeling of safety. Perhaps you might notice a quiet settling somewhere inside your mind right now, as though the voices that were speaking have begun to fade, one by one, into comfortable silence. Safe social signals increase GABA activity in your brain. When your nervous system detects that you are in a safe social environment, surrounded by people you trust, in a place that feels secure, GABA activity increases throughout the brain. This is not a conscious decision. It happens automatically, driven by the same ancient circuits that once told our ancestors when it was safe to rest. The effect is measurable. Heart rate slows. Muscle tension decreases. The startle reflex becomes less sensitive. The mind grows quieter and less reactive. It is as though the brain has a built-in dimmer switch, and the signal that turns it is not a button or a switch. It is the presence of trust. Perhaps the room around you feels a little softer now. Perhaps the edges of things have blurred just slightly, the way they do when the body begins to release its hold on the waking world. When GABA rises, anxiety softens like mist in morning sunlight. Anxiety, at its most basic level, is a pattern of excessive neural excitation. Too many signals, too fast, with too little inhibition to slow them down. GABA is the brain's natural answer to this pattern. When GABA levels are healthy, anxiety does not disappear. It simply becomes manageable. It softens. Researchers have described the effect of GABA on anxiety as similar to the way morning sunlight dissolves mist. The mist does not vanish instantly. It thins, gradually, until the landscape becomes visible again, familiar, peaceful, still. And here, in this quiet moment, perhaps something similar is happening. Perhaps the thoughts that were circling have begun to slow. Perhaps the weight of the day has started to thin, just a little, like mist before the sun. Your body knows how to do this. It has always known. Trust can reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, by nearly half. Cortisol is the hormone your body produces when it perceives threat. In small amounts, it is helpful. It sharpens focus, increases energy, and prepares the body to respond. But when cortisol remains elevated for too long, it suppresses the immune system, disrupts sleep, and creates a persistent sense of unease. In 2003, Marcus Heinrichs and his colleagues at the University of Zurich conducted a study that would change how scientists think about stress. They found that when participants received both oxytocin and social support from a trusted person, their cortisol response to stress was reduced by nearly 50%. Not medication, not meditation, just the presence of trust and the chemistry it creates. It is like a river after heavy rain. The water is high and fast and turbulent, but then someone opens a second channel, and the water begins to divide, to slow, to settle. Trust is that second channel. Perhaps your own cortisol has begun to ease tonight. Perhaps the simple act of resting here in this quiet space is enough. Heinrichs and colleagues found that oxytocin plus social support calms stress remarkably. The Heinrichs study was elegant in its simplicity. Participants were asked to perform a stressful task: public speaking, followed by mental arithmetic. Some received oxytocin. Some received social support from a friend. Some received both. And some received neither. The results were clear. Oxytocin alone helped. Social support alone helped. But the combination of both, oxytocin and the presence of a trusted person, produced the greatest reduction in stress. Cortisol levels dropped. Heart rate slowed. Self-reported anxiety decreased. What this tells us is that trust is not a single mechanism. It is a partnership between chemistry and connection, a duet between the molecule and the relationship. Imagine two streams meeting in a valley, their waters joining to form a wider, calmer river. That is what happens when oxytocin and human warmth converge. Perhaps your breathing has found a rhythm of its own by now. Perhaps you are not even thinking about it anymore. Mirror neurons fire. When you see someone you trust, relax. In the early 1990s, a team of researchers at the University of Parma, led by Giacomo Rizzolatti, discovered something unexpected. They found that certain neurons in the brain fire not only when you perform an action, but also when you watch someone else perform the same action. They called them mirror neurons. Among the many things mirror neurons respond to is relaxation. When you see someone you trust soften their shoulders, slow their breathing, or close their eyes in peace, your mirror neurons fire as though you were doing the same thing. Your own muscles begin to release. Your own breathing begins to slow. It is as though calmness is contagious, but only when transmitted by someone you trust. The mirror neurons distinguish between a stranger's relaxation and a loved one's. They respond most strongly to safety, perhaps somewhere inside you. A mirror neuron is firing right now, catching the calmness of this quiet moment and making it your own. Your brain literally catches calmness from the people you feel safe with. This phenomenon, the contagion of calm, is not limited to mirror neurons. The entire social engagement system, including the vagus nerve, the facial muscles, and the respiratory rhythm, is designed to synchronize with the people around you. And when those people are trusted, the synchronization deepens. You have probably experienced this without knowing its name. Sitting beside someone who is peaceful and feeling your own heart rate slow. Walking with someone who moves gently and finding your own steps soften. Hearing a voice that is warm and unhurried, and noticing that your thoughts have grown quieter. This is not imagination. This is neuroscience. Your brain is built to borrow peace from the people it trusts. And tonight, perhaps this voice, gentle, unhurried, steady, is offering something your mirror neurons can use. Perhaps your body is already catching the calm. The prefrontal cortex settles into quiet when trust is established. The prefrontal cortex sits just behind your forehead, and it is responsible for some of the most complex tasks your brain performs: planning, decision-making, evaluating social situations, and assessing risk. It is the part of your brain that asks, is this safe? Can I trust this person? What should I do next? When trust has been established, when the brain has decided that the environment is safe and the people around you are reliable, the prefrontal cortex reduces its activity. It does not shut down. It simply rests. The constant evaluation, the weighing of risks, the social calculations, all of it grows quieter. It is as though a sentinel who has been standing watch all day finally sits down, sets aside their lantern, and closes their eyes. Not because the night is without stars, but because the stars are enough. And perhaps tonight, your own inner sentinel has begun to rest. Perhaps the questions have grown quieter. Perhaps the calculations have slowed. This is the chemistry of safety. This is what trust does to a brain that has been working hard all day. And as we leave this first cluster behind, we carry with us the knowledge that every molecule of oxytocin, every pulse of dopamine, every quiet wave of serotonin and GABA and endorphins, all of them are working together, right now, to tell your body the same simple thing. You are safe, you are held, and you can rest. The vagus nerve is the longest nerve in your body, connecting brain to belly. There is a nerve that begins at the base of your brain and wanders gently downward through your body, past your throat, around your heart, through your lungs, and all the way to your belly. It is called the vagus nerve, from the Latin word for wanderer, and it is the longest cranial nerve you possess. The vagus nerve is not just a messenger. It is a two-way highway, carrying signals from the brain to the body and from the body back to the brain. It regulates your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion, and your immune response. And perhaps most beautifully, it is the nerve that responds most directly to the presence of trust. Imagine a river that flows from a mountain down through a valley, touching every field and garden along the way. That is what the vagus nerve does inside you. It carries the message of safety to every organ it passes. Perhaps you might notice a gentle warmth somewhere in your chest or your belly. That is the vagus nerve at work, doing what it has done since the day you were born. Stephen Porges calls the vagus nerve the body's social engagement system. Stephen Porges is a neuroscientist at the University of Illinois who spent decades studying the vagus nerve. What he discovered changed the way scientists think about safety, connection, and the body. He called his framework the polyvagal theory. And at its heart is a simple but profound idea. The vagus nerve is not just a nerve. It is a social organ. Porges found that a specific branch of the vagus nerve, the ventral vagal complex, is directly linked to the muscles of the face, the throat, and the middle ear. These are the muscles that allow you to make eye contact, to modulate your voice, to smile, and to listen. They are the tools of connection. When this ventral vagal system is active, the body enters a state of calm alertness, a state where you feel safe enough to connect, to communicate, and to rest. It is the state your body enters when it trusts. It is as though your nervous system has a built-in doorway to peace, and the vagus nerve is the key. When trust is present, the vagus nerve gently slows your heart. One of the vagus nerve's most immediate effects is on the heart. When the vagus nerve is active, when the body senses safety and trust, it sends a signal to the heart that gently slows its rhythm. This is called the vagal brake, and it is one of the most elegant mechanisms in human physiology. The vagal brake does not force the heart to slow. It simply allows it to, like releasing a foot from an accelerator. The vagal brake lets the heart find its natural resting pace. steady, calm, unhurried. Researchers can measure this effect in real time. In environments that feel safe, heart rate decreases. In the presence of trusted people, the vagal brake engages more fully. The heart, quite literally, beats more peacefully when trust is present. Perhaps right now, as you listen, your own vagal brake is gently engaging. Perhaps your heart has already begun to slow, finding its own quiet rhythm in this still, safe moment. High vagal tone means your body returns to calm more easily. Vagal tone is a measure of how effectively your vagus nerve functions, how quickly and smoothly it can shift your body from a state of stress back to a state of calm. People with high vagal tone recover from stress more quickly. They return to baseline heart rate sooner. They experience less lingering anxiety after a difficult moment. High vagal tone is associated with emotional resilience, better social functioning, and a stronger immune system. It is as though the vagus nerve is a muscle, and like any muscle, it can be strengthened through practice. And one of the most powerful ways to strengthen vagal tone is through repeated experiences of trust and safety. Each time your body enters a state of calm connection, the vagus nerve grows a little more efficient, a little more responsive, a little better at bringing you home to peace. Imagine a bird that returns to the same branch every evening. Over time, the branch bends gently to receive it. That is what vagal tone does. It shapes your body to receive calm more readily. Perhaps your body has been bending toward calm all evening, without you even knowing. Vagus nerve stimulation can reduce inflammation throughout your body. Inflammation is the body's response to injury or threat, a cascade of immune activity that brings healing but can also cause harm when it persists too long. Chronic inflammation has been linked to heart disease, depression, autoimmune disorders, and difficulty sleeping. But the vagus nerve has a remarkable ability to regulate this process. When the vagus nerve is active, it sends anti-inflammatory signals to the organs it touches: the heart, the lungs, the gut, the spleen. These signals reduce the production of inflammatory molecules, helping the body return to a state of balance. Researchers have found that vagus nerve stimulation, whether through deep breathing, meditation, or the presence of trusted social connection, can measurably reduce markers of inflammation in the blood. It is as though your body carries its own quiet healer, and all it asks is that you feel safe enough to let it work. Perhaps your stomach has settled a little. Perhaps there is a stillness in your core that was not there an hour ago. Neuroception is your body's way of sensing safety before your mind knows. Stephen Porges coined a beautiful word for something your body does every moment of every day without your awareness. He called it neuroception, the nervous system's ability to evaluate risk and safety below the level of conscious thought. Neuroception operates in the brainstem, scanning the environment for cues. It reads facial expressions. It listens to the tone of voices. It notices the rhythm of someone's breathing, the openness of their posture, the steadiness of their gaze. And from these cues, it makes a determination safe or not safe. When neuroception detects trust, when the cues all point towards safety, the parasympathetic nervous system activates. The body softens, the heart slows, the muscles release, and all of this happens before you have had a single conscious thought about whether you feel safe. It is as though your body reads the room before your mind enters it. And tonight, perhaps your neuroception has already made its quiet determination. Perhaps it has already whispered you can rest here. Your brainstem scans faces, voices, and postures for signs of trust. The brainstem is one of the oldest parts of the human brain, a region so ancient that it predates language, logic, and even emotion as we understand it. And yet it is remarkably sophisticated in its ability to detect social safety. The brainstem monitors the muscles of the face, particularly the eyes and the mouth. Looking for signs of genuine warmth, it listens to the prosody of speech, the melody and rhythm of a voice. To determine whether the speaker feels safe, it even tracks body posture, distinguishing between a person who is open and relaxed and one who is tense and guarded. All of this happens in milliseconds, far faster than conscious thought. The brainstem does not need words to understand trust. It speaks a language that is older than words, a language of tone, of gaze, of stillness. Perhaps somewhere deep in your own brainstem, that ancient language is being spoken right now. Perhaps the quiet tone of these words is being read as safety. A soft voice activates neuroception in a way that signals peace. Of all the cues that neuroception responds to, perhaps the most powerful is the human voice. Specifically, a voice that is soft, steady, and low in pitch. This combination of qualities activates the middle ear muscles that are connected to the ventral vagal complex, in a way that signals safety to the entire nervous system. This is why a mother's lullaby can calm a crying infant before the words themselves are understood. It is why a trusted friend's voice on the phone can ease anxiety even when they say nothing of particular comfort. The voice itself is the message. Researchers have found that voices within a certain frequency range, the range of a gentle, unhurried human conversation, are uniquely effective at activating the social engagement system and promoting feelings of safety. It is as though the ear is a doorway, and certain voices carry the key. Perhaps this voice, wherever it is coming from, is carrying that key for you tonight. Perhaps your ears have already opened the door. Polyvagal theory describes 3 states your nervous system can rest in. Porges's polyvagal theory identifies 3 distinct states of the autonomic nervous system. The first is the ventral vagal state, the state of safety and social connection. In this state, the body is calm but alert, the heart rate is steady, and the person feels open to connection and rest. The second is the sympathetic state, the state of mobilization. This is the fight or flight response, where the heart races, muscles tense, and the body prepares for action. It is not a state of rest. The third is the dorsal vagal state, the state of immobilization. This is the oldest survival response, a shutdown that occurs when the nervous system perceives overwhelming threat. It is not restful either. It is a kind of collapse. The goal, in moments like this one, is the first state, the ventral vagal state, the place where your body feels safe enough to be still, safe enough to breathe deeply, safe enough to let go of the day. And trust is the signal that invites your nervous system into that first, most peaceful state. Perhaps you are already there. Perhaps your body has already arrived. Trust gently shifts your body from alertness into the ventral vagal state. The shift from sympathetic activation to ventral vagal calm is not something you can force. It is something that happens when the conditions are right, when the environment feels safe, when the people around you feel trustworthy, when the signals your nervous system receives all point in the same direction. You are not in danger. When this shift occurs, the changes are subtle but pervasive. The pupils constrict slightly. The facial muscles soften. The voice, if you were speaking, would grow warmer and more melodic. The breath deepens. The heart rate settles. The gut begins to digest more efficiently. It is like watching a frozen lake begin to thaw in spring. Nothing dramatic happens. The ice simply softens, one layer at a time, until the water beneath it is free to move again. Perhaps something inside you is thawing right now. Perhaps it has been frozen for a while, and this is the beginning of its release. The ventral vagal state is where rest, digestion, and healing happen. The ventral vagal state is sometimes called the rest and digest state, and for good reason. It is the state in which your body does its most restorative work. Wounds heal. Nutrients are absorbed. The immune system patrols efficiently. Memories are consolidated during sleep. None of this can happen effectively when the body is in a state of stress. The sympathetic nervous system diverts resources away from healing and towards survival. Digestion slows. The immune system is suppressed. Sleep becomes fragmented and shallow. But when the ventral vagal state is engaged, when the body feels safe enough to rest, all of these processes resume. Healing begins again. Digestion resumes. Sleep deepens. It is as though your body has a repair shop that can only open when the sign says safe. And trust is what turns that sign on. Perhaps your body's repair shop is opening tonight. Perhaps it has been waiting for this quiet permission to begin. Heart rate variability increases in environments that feel safe. Heart rate variability, or HRV, is the subtle variation in time between each heartbeat. A healthy heart does not beat with the regularity of a metronome. Instead, it fluctuates gently, beating a little faster on the inhale and a little slower on the exhale. This variability is a sign of a flexible, resilient nervous system. Researchers have found that HRV increases in environments that feel safe and decreases in environments that feel threatening. When you are with people you trust, your heart rate variability tends to be higher. When you are alone and anxious, it tends to be lower. High HRV is associated with better emotional regulation, lower anxiety, and deeper sleep. It is one of the most reliable biomarkers of well-being that scientists have found. It is as though your heart becomes more musical when it feels safe, more willing to dance between beats, more willing to play. Perhaps your own heart is finding that gentle variability right now. Perhaps it is beginning to dance. A heart with high variability is a heart that adapts with grace. A heart with high variability is not a heart that beats wildly or unpredictably. It is a heart that responds with precision and grace to the demands of each moment. When you need energy, it speeds up smoothly. When you need rest, it slows down gently. It adapts without effort, like a sailboat adjusting to the wind. This adaptability is the hallmark of a nervous system that feels safe. When trust is present, the heart does not need to remain on high alert. It can be flexible. It can respond to the present moment rather than bracing for imagined threats. Scientists at the HeartMath Institute have studied this phenomenon extensively. finding that states of gratitude, compassion, and trust all increase heart rate variability. The heart, it seems, beats most beautifully when it is at peace. Like a river that flows most gracefully when its banks are wide and gentle, your heart finds its truest rhythm in the presence of safety. Loving kindness meditation has been shown to increase vagal tone. In 2013, Bethany Koch and her colleagues published a study showing that a practice called loving kindness meditation, in which participants silently wish well-being to themselves and others, produced measurable increases in vagal tone over the course of several weeks. Participants who practiced loving kindness meditation reported more positive social interactions, which in turn increased their vagal tone, which in turn improved their emotional resilience. It was an upward spiral, a gentle cycle of trust, connection, and physiological well-being. What this suggests is that the simple act of wishing someone well, even silently, even in your own mind, can strengthen the nerve that connects your brain to your heart and your heart to your belly. It is as though kindness, even when it is only thought, has a physical weight, a gentle pressure that strengthens the pathways of peace. Perhaps tonight, you might silently wish someone well. Perhaps that wish is already forming, somewhere at the edge of sleep. 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. Most people think of serotonin as a brain chemical, but the truth is far more interesting. Approximately 95% of the serotonin in your body is produced not in your brain, but in your gut. Specifically, in the enterochromaffin cells that line your intestinal wall. This serotonin plays a role in digestion, in gut motility, and in the communication between your gut and your brain via the vagus nerve. It is part of a vast, intricate conversation between two organ systems that were once thought to be completely separate. The gut produces serotonin in response to many signals, including the presence of beneficial bacteria, the quality of the food you eat, and the state of your nervous system. When you feel safe, when your body is in the ventral vagal state, gut serotonin production is optimized. It is as though your belly is a garden, and serotonin is the harvest. And the best harvests come in seasons of safety. Perhaps your stomach feels quiet tonight. Perhaps that quiet is a kind of abundance. Your gut contains 500 million neurons, a second brain. The enteric nervous system, the network of neurons that lines your digestive tract, contains approximately 500 million nerve cells. That is more than the spinal cord. It is sometimes called the second brain, and for good reason. This second brain can operate independently of the brain in your head. It manages digestion, monitors the chemical composition of your food, and communicates constantly with the central nervous system through the vagus nerve. It senses your emotional state and responds accordingly. When you feel anxious, your gut tightens. When you feel safe, it relaxes and works more efficiently. The second brain is not separate from your experience of trust. It is an integral part of it. Imagine a garden with its own quiet intelligence, knowing when to grow, when to rest, when to reach for the sun. That is your enteric nervous system, tending to you from within. Perhaps your own second brain has settled into a comfortable rhythm tonight. Perhaps it senses that all is well. That gut feeling about someone you trust is real neural processing. When people speak of a gut feeling, they are describing something far more literal than they may realize. The enteric nervous system processes social information alongside the brain, and it sends its assessments upward through the vagus nerve. That feeling of ease you experience in the presence of someone trustworthy, or the subtle tightness you feel around someone who is not, is genuine neural processing happening in your abdomen. Researchers have found that the gut responds to social cues with remarkable sensitivity. Changes in gut motility, blood flow, and serotonin production all shift in response to the emotional tone of your social environment. It is as though your belly has its own quiet wisdom, a way of knowing that does not require words or analysis, only sensation. And tonight, perhaps your gut is telling you something simple. This is a safe place. This is a good time to rest. Safe relationships improve the diversity of your gut microbiome. Your gut is home to trillions of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, and viruses that together form what scientists call the microbiome. The diversity of this microbiome is one of the strongest predictors of overall health. A diverse microbiome is associated with better digestion, stronger immunity, and improved mental health. And remarkably, social relationships affect microbiome diversity. Studies have found that people in stable, trusting relationships tend to have more diverse gut microbiomes than people who are isolated or in high-conflict relationships. The mechanism is not entirely understood, but it likely involves the stress-reducing effects of trust. Lower cortisol, improved vagal tone, and better digestive function all create conditions in which beneficial microbes thrive. It is as though trust does not only heal the mind and the heart, it heals the smallest, most hidden ecosystem inside you. Perhaps, deep within, a microscopic garden is flourishing in the quiet of this moment. Your skin has special nerve fibers designed just for gentle touch. In the 1990s, scientists discovered a class of nerve fibers in the skin that seemed to serve no obvious purpose. They did not respond to pressure or pain. They did not detect temperature or vibration. Instead, they responded only to slow, gentle stroking, the kind of touch you might receive from someone who cares for you. These fibers are called C-tactile afferents, and they are found primarily in the hairy skin of the arms, the back, and the scalp. They fire most actively at a very specific speed, between 1 and 10 centimeters per second. That is the speed of a mother's hand on a child's back, the speed of a friend's comforting touch, the speed of a caress. It is as though your skin was designed, from the very beginning, to recognize the touch of trust. Perhaps the fabric against your skin feels a little softer tonight. Perhaps even cloth can carry a kind of comfort. These C-tactile fibers fire best at the speed of a soft caress. The specificity of C-tactile afferents is remarkable. Touch that is too fast does not activate them. Touch that is too slow does not activate them. Only touch that falls within that narrow window. The speed of a gentle, deliberate caress triggers the full response. When these fibers fire, they send signals through a dedicated neural pathway to the insular cortex, the part of the brain that processes emotions and bodily sensations. The result is a feeling of comfort, of warmth, of being cared for. It is a feeling that bypasses conscious thought and goes straight to the body's sense of well-being. Francis McGlone at Liverpool John Moores University has studied these fibers extensively. He describes the skin as a social organ, an organ designed not just to protect the body from the environment, but to connect the body to other people through the language of gentle touch. It is as though every inch of your skin carries a memory of tenderness, waiting to be awakened. Perhaps your arms feel warm and heavy where they rest. Perhaps that heaviness is a kind of holding. Gentle touch releases oxytocin and lowers cortisol in minutes. When C-tactile afferents are activated by gentle touch, the effects ripple through the body with surprising speed. Within minutes, oxytocin levels begin to rise, cortisol levels begin to fall, heart rate slows, blood pressure decreases, the muscles around the shoulders and the neck begin to release. This response is automatic. It does not require conscious thought or emotional interpretation. The body simply responds to the quality of the touch, its speed, its pressure, its warmth, and adjusts its chemistry accordingly. This is why a simple hand on the shoulder can feel so profoundly comforting during a difficult moment. It is not just the gesture that helps. It is the chemistry the gesture creates. Imagine a stone dropped into still water. The ripples move outward in every direction, gentle and unhurried. That is what a single moment of gentle touch does inside your body. Perhaps you can feel those ripples now, perhaps in your hands, or your chest, or somewhere you did not expect. Premature babies given skin-to-skin contact show 36% lower stress hormones. In neonatal intensive care units around the world, a practice called kangaroo care has transformed the way premature infants are treated. In kangaroo care, the infant is placed directly against the parent's bare chest, skin to skin, often for hours at a time. The results are extraordinary. Premature infants who receive regular skin-to-skin contact show cortisol levels that are approximately 36% lower than those who do not. They gain weight faster. They sleep more deeply. Their heart rates are more stable. Their brain development is more robust. All of this from touch, from warmth, from the simple, ancient signal that says, "You are held." It is as though the body arrives in this world already knowing the language of trust. And the first word in that language is touch. Perhaps tonight, the warmth of whatever covers you carries a whisper of that same language. Perhaps your body remembers what it means to be held. Chronic tension in your shoulders or jaw can soften when trust is present. When the body lives in a state of chronic stress, when the nervous system rarely feels fully safe, certain muscles begin to hold tension as a default. The shoulders rise, the jaw clenches, the muscles along the neck and the upper back tighten. It becomes so habitual that many people stop noticing it altogether. But when trust enters the picture, when the nervous system finally receives a sustained signal of safety, these muscles can begin to release. Not all at once, and not dramatically, but slowly, gently, like snow melting from the eaves of a house in early spring. Peter Levine, the creator of somatic experiencing therapy, has written extensively about how the body stores both stress and safety in its muscles. He describes the release of chronic tension as one of the most healing things the body can do, a process that requires not effort, but permission. Perhaps you might notice your shoulders right now. Perhaps they have dropped, even just a little. Perhaps your jaw has unclenched. These are not things you need to make happen. They are things your body does when it feels safe enough to let go. Breathing naturally deepens and slows when you are near someone you trust. One of the most reliable signs that the nervous system has shifted into the ventral vagal state is a change in breathing. The breath deepens. The exhale lengthens. The rhythm slows. And none of this requires conscious effort. It simply happens when the body senses safety. When you are near someone you trust, your breathing shifts automatically. The diaphragm descends more fully. The chest expands more easily. The exhale, which activates the vagal brake and slows the heart, grows longer and more complete. Ruth Feldman, a researcher who has studied parent-infant bonding extensively, found that mothers and infants synchronize their breathing during moments of close physical contact. The same phenomenon occurs between trusted adults. A quiet alignment of respiratory rhythm that happens without words or intention. It is as though your breath reaches out toward the people you trust, finding their rhythm and matching it. Beat for quiet beat. Perhaps your own breath has found a rhythm tonight. Perhaps it is slower and deeper than it was when you first settled in. Breathing can synchronize between two people who share a bond of trust. This synchronization of breath is one of the most intimate things two nervous systems can do. It is not visible. It is not conscious. It is simply the body's way of saying, I am in rhythm with you. I feel safe with you. We are together. Researchers have measured this phenomenon using sensors that track respiratory patterns in real time. They have found that the closer the emotional bond between two people, the more tightly their breathing synchronizes, especially during moments of physical proximity or emotional vulnerability. It is as though trust creates an invisible thread between two sets of lungs, gently pulling them into the same gentle tide of inhale and exhale. And as we leave this second cluster behind, perhaps you can feel that your body has been listening all along, not with your ears, but with your vagus nerve, your skin, your gut, your muscles, and your breath. All of them have been receiving the same quiet message: you are safe here. Your body remembers what trust feels like, and tonight, it is remembering. John Bowlby believed attachment is a biological survival system. In 1969, a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby published a book that would change the way the world understands love. He proposed that the bond between a child and a caregiver is not merely emotional, it is biological. It is a survival system, wired into the nervous system as deeply as the need for food or shelter. Bowlby called this system attachment, and he argued that it evolved because infants who stayed close to a trusted caregiver were more likely to survive. The cry that brings a parent running, the reaching arms, the quiet settling that happens when the child is finally held. All of these behaviors, Bowlby said, are expressions of a biological program designed to keep the young safe. What makes this idea so beautiful is its simplicity. Trust is not something we learn as an abstract concept. It is something our bodies know from the very beginning, a reaching toward warmth that starts before we have words for it. It is as though the first language you ever spoke was not a word at all. It was a reaching, a quiet plea that said, "Hold me. I trust you." Perhaps you might notice the weight of your own body being held right now. By the bed, by the pillow, by the quiet of the room, you are still being held. The first trust you ever knew was the sound of a heartbeat beside you. Before you could see clearly, before you could understand language, Before you could distinguish one face from another, you could hear a heartbeat. In the womb, the steady rhythm of your mother's heart was the first sound you ever knew, and it was the first signal of trust your nervous system ever received. That heartbeat told your developing brain that you were not alone, that you were enclosed in warmth, that someone was there, and that their presence was constant. Researchers have found that newborns who are placed on their mother's chest immediately after birth show calmer heart rates, steadier breathing, and lower cortisol levels. The heartbeat, it seems, remains a signal of safety long after birth, a sound that says, "Without words, I am here. You are safe." It is as though every heartbeat you have ever heard beside you has left an invisible mark on your nervous system, a mark that says trust. Perhaps you can feel your own heartbeat right now, quiet and steady. Perhaps it is telling you the same thing it has told you since the very beginning. Mary Ainsworth showed that secure attachment creates a calm inner world. In the 1970s, developmental psychologist Mary Ainsworth designed an experiment called the strange situation. In it, young children were briefly separated from their caregivers and then reunited. What Ainsworth observed was that children who had consistent, responsive caregivers, children with what she called secure attachment, showed a remarkable pattern. When their caregiver returned, these children were quickly soothed. They reached out, were held, and within moments returned to a state of calm exploration. Their inner world, Ainsworth concluded, contained a working model of trust, a deep, embodied belief that when distress comes, comfort will follow. This working model does not disappear with childhood. It becomes the foundation upon which all future relationships are built. A quiet template that says the world can be trusted, people can be relied upon, safety is available. It is like a compass that always points toward calm, even when the path is uncertain. The direction of peace is known. Perhaps your own inner compass is pointing toward calm tonight. Perhaps it has been pointing there all along. Securely attached children tend to sleep longer and more peacefully. Dallaire and Weinrob. Researchers who studied the relationship between attachment and sleep in young children found something that confirms what many parents already sense. Children with secure attachment, children who trust that their caregivers will respond to their needs, sleep longer, wake less frequently during the night, and return to sleep more easily after waking. The reason is physiological. Secure attachment reduces baseline cortisol levels, increases vagal tone, and promotes the kind of nervous system regulation that allows the body to surrender fully to sleep. When a child trusts that they are safe, their body permits itself to let go. It is as though sleep and trust share the same root. To sleep deeply, you must trust deeply. And the children who trust most fully are the ones who rest most completely. Perhaps tonight, some part of you remembers what it was like to trust that completely. To close your eyes knowing that someone was watching over you. Perhaps that memory is enough to carry you gently toward rest. Attachment patterns formed in infancy can gently reshape throughout life. One of the most hopeful findings in attachment research is that attachment patterns are not fixed. They can change. A person who grew up with insecure attachment can, through new relationships, therapy, or consistent experiences of trust, gradually develop what researchers call earned security. The neural pathways that encode trust are plastic. They can be rewritten by new experiences. Each time a person receives care that is consistent and warm. Each time trust is offered and honored. The brain adjusts its internal model. The old patterns soften. New patterns take root. It is like a garden that was once neglected but is slowly, patiently tended back to life. The weeds do not vanish overnight, but with each season of care, the flowers grow a little stronger, a little more abundant. Perhaps you are in the middle of that tending right now. Perhaps every quiet moment of safety you experience is a small act of gardening, reshaping the landscape of trust inside you, one gentle season at a time. Co-regulation means one calm nervous system can soothe another. Deb Dana, a clinician who has done extensive work with polyvagal theory, describes a phenomenon she calls co-regulation, the ability of one calm nervous system to bring another nervous system into a state of calm. Co-regulation is not something you do with words or intention. It happens through proximity, through tone of voice, through the rhythm of breathing, and through the subtle cues of the body. When one person is in the ventral vagal state, calm, open, grounded, their nervous system broadcasts signals of safety that can be picked up by the nervous systems of those around them. This is why a calm parent can soothe a frightened child simply by holding them. Why a steady friend can ease your anxiety without saying anything at all. Why sitting beside someone who is at peace can make you feel at peace. 2. It is as though your nervous system is a tuning fork, and when it comes near another tuning fork that is vibrating at the frequency of calm, it begins to resonate in kind. Perhaps you are being co-regulated right now, by the stillness of the room, by the rhythm of these words, by the quiet agreement your body has made with this moment. A parent's steady breathing can slow an infant's racing heart. When a newborn is placed on a parent's chest, something extraordinary happens. The infant's heart rate, which may have been elevated from the stress of birth or from crying, begins to slow. Not because the infant has made a conscious decision to calm down, but because the parent's steady breathing and heartbeat provide a template that the infant's nervous system follows. This is co-regulation in its purest form. The parent's body does not need to say anything. It simply offers a rhythm, a slow, steady pattern of inhale and exhale, of heartbeat and pause, and the infant's body mirrors it. Researchers have measured this effect with remarkable precision. Within minutes of skin-to-skin contact, the infant's heart rate, breathing rate, and cortisol levels begin to converge with the parents. Two nervous systems, finding the same calm frequency. It is as though the parent's body is a lighthouse, and the infant's nervous system is a ship finding its way home by following the light. Perhaps tonight, you are both the ship and the lighthouse. Perhaps you are finding your own way home. Adults still co-regulate. This is why calm people make you feel calm. Co-regulation does not end in infancy. Adults continue to co-regulate throughout their entire lives. Though the process becomes more subtle, when you sit beside a friend who is calm, your own nervous system begins to shift. When you hear a voice that is steady and unhurried, your breathing adjusts. When you are in the presence of someone who is grounded and at peace, your own body begins to settle. This is not a conscious choice. It is an automatic, neurobiological process driven by the same vagal circuits that first connected you to your caregiver. Your nervous system never stops listening for signals of safety from the people around you. And this is why the company we keep matters so much. Not just for our emotional well-being, but for our physiological state. Calm people are, in a very real sense, healing to be around. It is as though each person you trust carries a small piece of medicine in their presence. A medicine that your nervous system knows how to receive. Perhaps your body is receiving something quiet and healing right now. Perhaps it has been receiving it since you first settled in. Holding someone's hand can reduce the brain's response to threat. In 2006, James Cohen, a neuroscientist at the University of Virginia, conducted an experiment that has become one of the most beautiful demonstrations of trust in the scientific literature. He placed married women inside a brain scanner and told them they might receive a mild electric shock. Then he measured their brain's response to the threat. When the women faced the threat alone, their brains showed strong activation in regions associated with fear and pain. When they held the hand of a stranger, the activation decreased slightly. But when they held the hand of their trusted partner, the activation decreased dramatically, especially in women who rated their relationships as highly satisfying. The hand of a trusted person, it seems, is not merely a comfort. It is a neural buffer, a physical signal that reduces the brain's perception of threat. Imagine a wall between you and a storm. That is what a trusted hand can do for your brain. It does not stop the storm. It simply places something strong and warm between you and the wind. Perhaps your hands feel warm where they rest. Perhaps that warmth is its own kind of holding. James Cohen at the University of Virginia showed this with brain scans. What made Cohen's study so remarkable was not just the finding itself, but the clarity of the brain images. The scans showed that when a trusted partner's hand was held, regions like the anterior insula, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, and the hypothalamus all showed reduced activation. These are regions deeply involved in processing pain, threat, and emotional distress. The reduction was not subtle. It was visible, measurable, and consistent across participants. And it scaled with the quality of the relationship. The more trust in the partnership, the greater the neural buffering effect. Cohen described this as social baseline theory, the idea that the brain's default expectation is to be in the presence of trusted others. When we are alone, the brain works harder. When we are with people we trust, the brain can relax, because the load of dealing with the world is shared. It is as though the brain was never designed to face the world alone. It was designed to face it together. And trust is the signal that says we are together. Perhaps tonight, even though you may be alone in the room, you are not facing the night alone. Perhaps these quiet words are a kind of hand being held. The presence of a trusted person can literally reduce your perception of pain. Pain is not a fixed sensation. It is an interpretation, a story the brain tells about signals arriving from the body, and that story can be changed by context. The same physical stimulus can feel more or less painful depending on whether you are alone or with someone you trust. Multiple studies have confirmed this. The presence of a trusted person reduces not only the brain's response to pain, but the subjective experience of pain itself. People report lower pain ratings when a loved one is present. They tolerate discomfort longer. They recover more quickly. The mechanism involves the same neural circuits we have been exploring. Oxytocin, the vagus nerve, the prefrontal cortex, and the endorphin system. Together, They create a state in which the brain literally interprets physical sensations as less threatening. It is as though trust wraps the body in an invisible layer of softness, not removing the sensation, but changing the way it is received. Perhaps any small discomfort you noticed when you first lay down has begun to fade. Perhaps your body has already softened around it. Social isolation affects the body as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. In 2010, Julianne Holt-Lundstad and her colleagues at Brigham Young University published a meta-analysis that stunned the medical world. After reviewing data from over 300,000 participants, they concluded that a lack of social connection increases the risk of early death by approximately 50%, an effect comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The finding was not about loneliness as an emotion. It was about isolation as a physiological state. When the body lacks trusted social connection, cortisol remains chronically elevated. Inflammation increases. The immune system weakens. Sleep deteriorates. The cardiovascular system works harder. Trust, it turns out, is not a luxury. It is a biological requirement, as fundamental to health as nutrition, exercise, and sleep. It is as though the body was built to be in relationship, and when that relationship is absent, the body slowly, quietly begins to suffer. But tonight, you are not isolated. You are here, in this quiet space, connected to these words and to the gentle intention behind them. Perhaps that is enough. Trusted relationships help natural killer cells function more effectively. Natural killer cells are a type of white blood cell that serves as one of the body's first lines of defense against viruses and abnormal cells. They patrol the bloodstream constantly, identifying and eliminating threats before they can cause harm. Researchers have found that the effectiveness of natural killer cells is influenced by social factors, particularly the quality of one's closest relationships. People in trusting, secure relationships tend to have more active and effective natural killer cells than people in high conflict or isolated situations. The connection is mediated by cortisol. When trust is present and cortisol is low, the immune system operates at its best. When trust is absent and cortisol is chronically elevated, immune function is suppressed, including the activity of natural killer cells. It is as though your immune system has a preference for peace. It works most effectively when the body feels safe. Perhaps tonight, as your cortisol settles and your body rests, your natural killer cells are quietly doing their work, patrolling, protecting, keeping you well. A study in Italy found that secure bonds strengthen immune response. A research team in Italy studied 61 women, examining the relationship between their attachment styles and their immune function. What they found was striking. Women who reported secure, trusting relationships showed stronger natural killer cell activity than women who reported insecure or anxious relationships. The difference was not small. It was clinically significant. A measurable gap in the body's ability to defend itself, linked directly to the quality of trust in one's closest relationships. This study added to a growing body of evidence that trust is not just emotionally beneficial, it is immunologically protective. The body, it seems, heals better, defends better, and functions better when it feels safe in its relationships. It is as though every moment of trust deposits a small amount of strength into the body's reserves. a strength that the immune system draws upon when it needs to protect you. Perhaps your body is building those reserves right now, in this quiet, safe moment. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon found that more hugs mean fewer colds. Sheldon Cohen and his colleagues at Carnegie Mellon University conducted a study in which they exposed over 400 healthy adults to a common cold virus and then monitored who became sick. What they found was delightfully simple. People who reported receiving more frequent hugs were significantly less likely to develop cold symptoms. Among those who did get sick, the hug receivers had milder symptoms and recovered more quickly. The researchers attributed this to the stress buffering effects of physical affection. The way touch reduces cortisol, boosts oxytocin, and strengthens immune function. It is a finding that makes scientific what grandmothers have always known: warmth and closeness keep you well. Imagine a coat that is not made of fabric, but of kindness. Invisible, weightless, and yet genuinely protective. That is what consistent, trusted touch does for your body. Perhaps you are wearing that coat tonight. Perhaps every gentle moment you have experienced today has added another layer. Couples with warm interactions heal from wounds 40% faster. In 2010, Jean-Philippe Gouin and his colleagues at Ohio State University conducted a study that measured something remarkably concrete: the speed of wound healing. They created small blisters on the arms of married couples, and then monitored how quickly those blisters healed. Couples who were observed having warm, supportive interactions healed approximately 40% faster than couples who were observed having hostile or distant interactions. 40%. Not a slight improvement, a dramatic one. The mechanism involves oxytocin and its role in tissue repair. Warm interactions boost oxytocin, which promotes cell growth, reduces inflammation, and accelerates the body's natural healing processes. Hostile interactions suppress oxytocin and elevate cortisol, which slows healing. It is as though love is not just an emotion, it is a medical intervention, one that works at the level of cells and tissue. Perhaps somewhere in your body tonight, a quiet repair is underway. Perhaps the safety of this moment is making that repair a little faster, a little more complete. Oxytocin released during trust promotes tissue repair and reduces swelling. Oxytocin's effects on the body extend far beyond the brain. In the tissues of the body, oxytocin acts as an anti-inflammatory agent, reducing swelling and promoting the repair of damaged cells. It encourages the growth of new blood vessels, which brings nutrients and oxygen to healing tissues. It reduces the activity of inflammatory cytokines, which can slow recovery. This is why wounds heal faster in the presence of trust. It is not a metaphor. The chemistry of trust, the oxytocin, the reduced cortisol, the improved vagal tone, creates physical conditions in the body that accelerate healing. It is as though your body has a repair crew that works best in an atmosphere of calm. When the atmosphere is tense, the crew slows down. When the atmosphere is safe, the crew works quickly and efficiently. Perhaps your body's repair crew is working at full capacity tonight. Perhaps the safety of this moment is all they needed to begin. Women in trusting relationships show better sleep efficiency. Wendy Troxell and her colleagues at the University of Pittsburgh studied the relationship between marital quality and sleep in women. They found that women who rated their relationships as high in trust and satisfaction had significantly better sleep efficiency. meaning they spent a greater proportion of their time in bed actually sleeping. These women fell asleep faster, woke less frequently during the night, and reported feeling more rested in the morning. The effect was independent of other factors like income, age, and health status. Trust, by itself, was a predictor of better sleep. The mechanism is straightforward. Trust reduces cortisol. It increases vagal tone. It promotes the neural conditions that allow the brain to transition smoothly from waking to sleeping. When the nervous system feels safe, it permits sleep. When it does not, it resists. It is as though sleep is a door that only opens from the inside, and trust is the hand that turns the handle. Perhaps that handle is turning for you right now. Perhaps the door is already beginning to open. Trusted partnerships can synchronize sleep cycles over time. Researchers have found that couples who share a bed and who report high levels of trust tend to synchronize their sleep cycles over time. They enter and exit sleep stages at similar times. Their periods of deep sleep and REM sleep begin to align. This synchronization is not just a matter of shared schedules. It reflects a deeper physiological alignment. Two nervous systems that have become attuned to each other through years of co-regulation. The presence of a trusted partner signals safety, which allows both bodies to descend into sleep more fully and more efficiently. It is as though two clocks, placed side by side, gradually begin to tick in rhythm, not because anyone adjusted them, but because proximity and trust created a natural alignment. Perhaps tonight, even if you are sleeping alone, your body carries the rhythm of someone you trust. A rhythm that helps you settle, that helps you rest. Social trust is linked to longer telomeres, the caps that protect your chromosomes. Telomeres are the protective caps at the ends of your chromosomes. Tiny structures that keep your genetic material from unraveling during cell division. As you age, telomeres naturally shorten, but the rate at which they shorten is influenced by many factors, including stress, inflammation, and social connection. Elissa Epel and her colleagues at the University of California, San Francisco, have found that people with strong social trust tend to have longer telomeres than people who are socially isolated. The mechanism is likely related to cortisol. Chronic stress shortens telomeres by increasing oxidative damage to cells, while trust and connection reduce cortisol and slow this process. It is as though every moment of trust adds a small, invisible thread to the protective caps around your DNA. A thread that helps your cells stay healthy a little longer. Perhaps tonight, in this quiet moment of safety, your telomeres are being gently protected. Perhaps rest and trust are doing their quiet work at the very deepest level of your biology. Longer telomeres are associated with slower biological aging. The length of your telomeres is one of the most reliable biomarkers of biological aging, a measure not of how many years you have lived, but of how well your cells have weathered those years. Longer telomeres are associated with better cardiovascular health, stronger immune function, and greater cognitive resilience. What is remarkable is that telomere length is not entirely determined by genetics. It is influenced by lifestyle, by stress, and by the quality of your relationships. People who live in environments of chronic distrust and conflict tend to have shorter telomeres. People who live in environments of safety, trust, and connection tend to have longer ones. This means that trust may literally slow the rate at which your body ages. Not dramatically, not overnight, but gradually, quietly, over the course of a lifetime. It is as though trust is a gentle hand on the clock of aging, not stopping it, but slowing its turning, giving your cells a little more time to thrive. Perhaps your cells are thriving right now, in the peace of this moment. Prairie voles form lifelong bonds through oxytocin and vasopressin. The prairie vole is a small, unremarkable rodent that lives in the grasslands of North America. But in the world of neuroscience, it is famous because prairie voles are one of the few mammalian species that form lifelong pair bonds. Researchers have discovered that this bonding behavior is driven by two molecules, oxytocin and vasopressin. When prairie voles mate, their brains are flooded with these chemicals, which create a lasting association between the partner's scent and the feeling of reward and safety. From that point on, the voles prefer each other's company, share parenting duties, and show signs of distress when separated. It is as though nature designed a molecular glue, a chemistry of devotion that binds two lives together, not through obligation, but through the quiet, persistent feeling that this particular presence means safety. Perhaps somewhere in the grasslands tonight, two prairie voles are huddled together in their burrow, kept warm by the same chemistry that keeps you warm in the memory of someone you love. Elephants build trust-based herds that mourn and care for each other. Elephants live in matriarchal herds, held together not by territory or dominance, but by trust. The eldest female, the matriarch, leads the group through her knowledge of water sources, safe routes, and the locations of danger. The other elephants follow her not because they are forced to, but because they trust her wisdom. Elephants have been observed caring for injured herd members, guiding blind individuals, and staying beside dying companions. They return to the bones of deceased relatives and touch them gently with their trunks, a behavior that researchers describe as mourning. Their social bonds are built on decades of shared experience, of co-regulation, of quiet trust earned through consistency and care. An elephant herd is a living demonstration of what trust looks like when it is given enough time to deepen. It is as though the elephants know something we are only beginning to understand, that trust is not a single moment. It is a lifetime of quiet showing up. Perhaps tonight, you are part of a herd of your own, a quiet gathering of people who have shown up for you. Again and again, dolphins swim in pods held together by synchronized breathing and trust. Dolphins are conscious breathers. They must actively choose to take each breath, even while sleeping. This means that sleep, for a dolphin, requires an extraordinary level of trust. Dolphins sleep with one half of their brain at a time, keeping the other half awake to breathe and watch for danger. But in trusted pods, dolphins have been observed resting more deeply. They swim in tight formation, synchronizing their breathing and their movements, creating a collective rhythm that allows each individual to relax more fully than they could alone. It is as though the pod itself becomes a single breathing organism, a community of trust that makes vulnerabilities safe. Perhaps you can feel the rhythm of something similar tonight, a collective quiet, a shared stillness, as though you are part of a pod of sleepy souls, all drifting in the same gentle current. Even vampire bats share meals based on reciprocal trust built over years. Vampire bats have a surprising social life. They live in colonies, and when a bat returns from a successful hunt, it will sometimes regurgitate blood to feed a bat that was unsuccessful. This sharing is not random. It is based on relationships built over years of reciprocal trust. Researcher Gerald Carter at Ohio State University found that bats preferentially share with individuals who have shared with them in the past. They build trust slowly, through repeated small acts of generosity, and they withdraw trust from individuals who fail to reciprocate. It is remarkably similar to the way humans build trust. One small kindness at a time, one kept promise at a time, until the bond is strong enough to rely on. It is as though trust is nature's oldest agreement, not written on paper, but encoded in chemistry, in behavior, and in the quiet memory of every kindness given and received. And as this third cluster comes to a close, perhaps you carry with you the gentle knowledge that trust is not unique to humans. It is woven into the fabric of life itself, from the smallest vole to the largest elephant, from the deepest ocean to the darkest cave. You are part of that fabric, and tonight, you are held by it. In the happiest countries on earth, the most common ingredient is not wealth. It is trust. Year after year, researchers study what makes certain nations consistently rank among the most content on the planet. They examine income, healthcare, education, freedom, and yet, when every variable is weighed, one quiet factor rises above the rest: trust. In Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Finland, Norway, surveys reveal that over 80% of citizens believe most people can be trusted. This is not naivete. It is a social fabric woven across generations, where strangers leave baby strollers outside cafes, where lost wallets are returned, where institutions function because people believe they will. Researchers at the World Happiness Report found that interpersonal trust accounts for more variation in life satisfaction than GDP per capita. It is not that these societies have no problems. It is that when problems arise, people believe others will help. And that belief, that quiet, collective faith, changes the chemistry of an entire population. Cortisol levels drop. Oxytocin flows more freely. The nervous system of a whole nation settles into something close to safety. Imagine a country as a single body. Trust is the deep, slow breath that keeps it calm. Without it, every organ strains. With it, even in winter, even in darkness, the body rests. Let your own breath slow now. Feel the quiet dignity of simply believing that the world around you is trying its best. Harvard's longest study on happiness, spanning 84 years, found that the quality of your relationships predicts your health more than cholesterol, more than genetics. In 1938, researchers at Harvard began following two groups of young men, some from the university, others from Boston's poorest neighborhoods. They tracked them through wars, marriages, careers, losses, and old age. The study continued for over 8 decades, eventually including their spouses, their children, and the conclusion, after all those years of data, was remarkably simple. The people who stayed healthiest and lived longest were not the wealthiest, not the most accomplished. They were the ones who had warm, trusting relationships. Dr. Robert Waldinger, the study's current director, summarized it gently. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Period. The men who felt they could rely on someone, a partner, a friend, a sibling, had lower rates of heart disease, slower cognitive decline, and fewer chronic illnesses. Trust in another person, it turned out, was more protective than any medication. Think of a relationship you trust as a blanket that has been washed 1,000 times. It is soft not because it is new, but because it has been held, unfolded, and returned to, again and again. Let your hands rest open on your lap or by your sides. Feel the warmth of someone who has stayed. That warmth is still here. Even now, communities with higher social trust have lower rates of heart disease. Not because of diet or exercise, but because of connection. In Roseto, Pennsylvania, in the 1960s, researchers discovered something that baffled the medical establishment. The residents of this small Italian-American town had remarkably low rates of heart attack, nearly half the national average. Their diet was not especially healthy. They smoked. They did not exercise more than anyone else. What they did have was extraordinary social cohesion. Neighbors ate together. Families lived in multi-generational homes. People trusted each other with their children, their kitchens, their grief. Dr. Stuart Wolfe and sociologist John Brune documented this phenomenon and called it the Roseto effect. When the younger generation began to move away and social bonds weakened, heart disease rates climbed to match the national average. The protection had never been in the food. It had been in the trust. Perhaps the heart does not only pump blood, perhaps it also pumps belonging. And when belonging fades, the heart feels it first. Place one hand over your chest if you like. Feel the rhythm that has kept you alive through every lonely night and every crowded room. It is still beating. It is still trusting. Robert Putnam's research found that social capital, the trust between neighbors, predicts a community's well-being more than its income level. Political scientist Robert Putnam spent decades studying what makes communities thrive. In his landmark work, he coined the term social capital. The networks, norms, and trust that allow people to act together effectively. He found that towns with high social capital had better schools, safer streets, healthier residents, and more responsive governments. And the core ingredient was not money. It was whether people believed their neighbors would show up. Would they water your plants while you traveled? Would they watch your children play outside? Would they return a borrowed tool without being asked? These tiny acts of trust, repeated thousands of times, created an invisible infrastructure more powerful than any policy. Putnam warned that as social capital declined, as people bowled alone, ate alone, lived alone, the health of entire communities would follow. Trust between neighbors is like rain falling on a shared garden. No single drop does much, but together, everything grows. Let your shoulders soften. You do not have to hold the whole garden alone. The rain is already falling. The soil is already soft. Beneath the forest floor, trees share nutrients through an underground network so vast it has been called the Wood Wide Web. In forests around the world, something extraordinary is happening just beneath the surface. Tree roots are connected to one another through a network of fungal threads called mycorrhizal networks. Through these threads, trees share sugars, water, nitrogen, and even chemical warning signals. A Douglas fir shading a younger hemlock might send carbon through the network to help it survive. A tree under attack by insects might release chemical signals through the fungi, prompting neighboring trees to produce defensive compounds before the insects arrive. Ecologist Suzanne Simard, who pioneered this research at the University of British Columbia, described the forest not as a collection of competing individuals, but as a cooperative superorganism. The trees trust the network. They give without knowing if they will receive. And the forest, as a whole, thrives because of it. Imagine the forest as a sleeping body. The trees are organs. The fungal threads are nerves, and the nutrients flowing between them are whispered promises. Kept in the dark, underground, where no one is watching. Let your body settle deeper now. You are part of a network too, even in stillness. Something is being shared. Suzanne Simard discovered that the oldest trees in a forest, called mother trees, recognize their own seedlings and send them extra nutrients through the fungal network. When Suzanne Simard used radioactive carbon isotopes to trace nutrient flow in forests, she found something that moved her deeply. The largest, oldest trees, which she named mother trees, were not simply sharing resources equally. They were sending more carbon to their own offspring. They recognized their kin through chemical signals in the root tips and preferentially nourished them. When a mother tree was dying, she would increase her nutrient transfer, flooding her seedlings with carbon and defense signals, as if passing down everything she knew before she fell. This was not random generosity. It was targeted care. It was trust encoded in chemistry. The forest, it turned out, was not just a community. It was a family. Perhaps a mother tree is like a lullaby sung so softly that only the ones who need it most can hear. The song does not stop when the singer falls. It lingers. In the roots, in the soil, in the quiet dark. Let your breathing slow to the rhythm of something ancient. You were once a seedling too, and someone, somewhere, sent you what you needed to grow. The clownfish and the sea anemone have trusted each other for millions of years. One provides protection, the other provides food, and neither can thrive alone. In the warm waters of coral reefs, a small orange fish lives among the stinging tentacles of a sea anemone. The anemone's toxins would paralyze most creatures, but the clownfish is coated in a special mucus that makes it immune. In return for this shelter, the clownfish brings food to the anemone, cleans parasites from its tentacles, and chases away predators like butterfly fish. This mutualism has persisted for tens of millions of years. Neither species signed a contract, neither demanded proof. They simply evolved together, each one becoming the other's safe place. Marine biologists note that anemones without clownfish are more vulnerable to predators and grow more slowly. And clownfish without anemones rarely survive in the open ocean. They need each other, and they trust each other completely. Imagine two creatures who have never spoken a word, yet have kept each other alive for longer than most mountain ranges have existed. That is what trust looks like when words are not needed. Let your body be still like warm water. Something is holding you too. You do not need to see it. You only need to rest. Lichens, those quiet patches on rocks and trees, are actually two organisms living as one. in a partnership that began over 400 million years ago. A lichen is not a single organism. It is a fungus and an alga, or sometimes a cyanobacterium, living together in such intimate cooperation that for centuries, scientists thought it was one species. The fungus provides structure, protection from ultraviolet light, and minerals. The alga provides food through photosynthesis. Together, they can survive in places neither could alone: bare rock, Arctic tundra, desert sand, the bark of ancient trees. This partnership is one of the oldest on Earth, dating back over 400 million years. Lichens were among the first organisms to colonize land. They broke down rock into soil. They made the planet habitable. And they did it not through competition, but through trust so deep it became indistinguishable from identity. Perhaps the oldest form of trust is not a feeling. It is a merging, two becoming one so completely that separation is no longer possible or desirable. Let your breath dissolve into the quiet around you. You do not end where the air begins. You are already merged with the night. Mycorrhizal networks can stretch for miles underground, connecting hundreds of trees in a single forest into one living, breathing system of mutual aid. A single mycorrhizal network can connect dozens, sometimes hundreds, of trees across an entire forest. The fungal threads, called hyphae, are thinner than a human hair, yet collectively they can span kilometers. Through this network, trees exchange not only nutrients, but information. A tree stressed by drought may receive water from a neighbor with deeper roots. A tree attacked by beetles may send chemical warnings that travel through the fungi to trees hundreds of meters away, giving them time to prepare their defenses. Researchers estimate that in a healthy forest, up to 90% of trees are connected to at least one mycorrhizal network. The forest is not a crowd. It is a conversation, and the conversation runs on trust, the quiet assumption that what is given will, in time, return. Imagine lying on the forest floor at night. Beneath you, a web of whispered generosity stretches in every direction. You cannot see it. You cannot hear it. But it is there. And it is holding every tree you have ever loved. Let your body soften into the ground beneath you. The bed, the pillow, the surface that holds you now. It is enough. You are held. Your body is a community of 37 trillion cells, and not a single one of them works alone. 37 trillion. That is the estimated number of cells in an adult human body. Each one is performing its task, dividing, signaling, repairing, defending, in constant coordination with its neighbors. Your red blood cells carry oxygen without ever seeing the lungs that filled them. Your white blood cells patrol tissues they have never visited before, trusting chemical signals to guide them. Your neurons fire in patterns so complex that no single cell understands the whole picture. Yet together, they produce thought, memory, and dreams. This coordination is not managed by a central authority. There is no CEO of your body. It runs on distributed trust. Billions of cells responding to local signals, trusting that the system as a whole will function. And it does. Every second, every breath, even now, as you rest. Your body is a city that never sleeps. And yet it asks you to, because it trusts itself enough to keep going. While you let go, Feel the hum of those 37 trillion workers. They do not need your supervision. They only need your permission to continue. And they already have it. Your immune system uses MHC markers, molecular identity tags, to distinguish your own cells from invaders. A system of trust written into every surface of every cell. Every cell in your body carries a set of molecular markers on its surface called MHC proteins, major histocompatibility complex. These markers are like identity badges, unique to you, telling your immune system this cell belongs here. When a cell is infected by a virus, its MHC markers change. They display fragments of the viral protein, signaling to passing T cells that something is wrong. This is not a crude alarm. It is a nuanced conversation. The immune system does not simply attack everything foreign. It checks credentials. It verifies identity. It trusts the markers. This system is so precise that it can distinguish between your own healthy cells, your own infected cells, and a foreign transplant, even if that transplant comes from a close relative. Trust, at the cellular level, is not a feeling. It is a language written in proteins. Imagine every cell in your body wearing a tiny name tag. And imagine your immune system as a gentle guard who knows every name by heart. It does not fight out of anger. It protects out of recognition. Let your body feel recognized now. Every part of you belongs. Every cell knows your name. Your gut contains trillions of bacteria that are not you. And yet your body trusts them so deeply that without them, you could not survive. The human gut is home to approximately 38 trillion bacteria, slightly more than the number of human cells in your body. These microorganisms are not invaders. They are partners. They digest food your enzymes cannot break down. They produce vitamins K, B12, folate, that your own cells cannot manufacture. They train your immune system during infancy, teaching it to distinguish between threats and friends. They even produce neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA that influence your mood, your sleep, your sense of calm. Your body did not build walls against these bacteria. It built a home for them. The mucus lining of your intestine is not a barrier. It is a welcome mat, carefully calibrated to nourish the right species and discourage the wrong ones. This is trust at its most intimate. Your body opening itself to trillions of foreign organisms because it knows, through millions of years of co-evolution, that they mean well. Perhaps the deepest trust is not keeping others out. It is knowing which ones to let in and making a place for them inside you. Let your belly soften. Feel the warmth of that inner world. Alive, cooperative, humming with quiet purpose. You are never truly alone. Mitochondria, the tiny power stations inside your cells, were once free-living bacteria that your ancestors absorbed over 2 billion years ago, in perhaps the oldest act of trust in the history of life. Every cell in your body contains hundreds, sometimes thousands, of mitochondria. These tiny organelles produce the ATP that powers nearly every function in your body, from muscle contraction to neural signaling. But mitochondria were not always part of us. Over 2 billion years ago, an ancient single-celled organism engulfed a smaller bacterium and instead of digesting it, kept it alive. The bacterium became the mitochondrion. It retained its own DNA, its own replication cycle, and in return for shelter, it provided energy. This event, called endosymbiosis, is considered one of the most significant moments in the history of life on Earth. Without it, complex life as we know it would not exist. No plants, no animals, no humans, no dreams. It all began because one cell trusted another enough not to destroy it. 2 billion years ago, something chose mercy over hunger, and that single act of trust became the engine of all living things. Let your whole body soften into gratitude. You are powered by an ancient friendship. Every breath you take is a thank you note. Written 2 billion years late. Your body is not a fortress. It is an ecosystem where human cells, bacteria, fungi, and even viruses coexist in a balance maintained by trust. The old metaphor of the body as a fortress, walls up, gates closed, immune system as an army, is giving way to a gentler, more accurate picture. Your body is an ecosystem. It hosts not only trillions of bacteria but also fungi, archaea, and even viruses that have integrated their DNA into your genome over millions of years. Approximately 8% of the human genome is derived from ancient retroviruses, viral sequences that became part of us so long ago they now serve functions, including the formation of the placenta during pregnancy. Your body does not survive by fighting everything foreign. It survives by negotiating, accommodating, and trusting. The immune system is not a soldier. It is a diplomat, constantly reading signals, adjusting responses, choosing tolerance over destruction when the situation warrants it. Perhaps health is not the absence of foreignness. It is the presence of harmony. A body at peace is not one that has won a war, but one that has made 1,000 quiet treaties. Let your body feel like a landscape at dusk, every creature settling in, every sound softening, every border dissolving into the warm, shared dark. When your mind wanders freely, daydreaming, drifting, imagining, it activates the default mode network, a brain state that only emerges when you feel safe enough to stop paying attention. The default mode network, or DMN, is a constellation of brain regions that becomes active when you are not focused on any external task. It lights up when you daydream, when you remember the past, when you imagine the future, when you think about other people's feelings. Neuroscientists once considered this idle brain activity to be noise, purposeless background chatter. But research has revealed that the DMN is vital for creativity, self-reflection, emotional processing, and consolidating memories. It is the brain's way of making sense of your life, and it only fully activates when you feel safe, when you are vigilant, scanning for threats, monitoring your environment, bracing for danger. The DMN is suppressed. The brain cannot wander if it does not trust the world to stay still. Daydreaming is not laziness. It is a sign that your nervous system trusts the moment enough to let your mind go exploring. Without a map, without a destination. Let your thoughts drift now. Do not chase them. Do not organize them. They are not lost. They are wandering home. Mind wandering, often dismissed as distraction, is actually associated with higher creativity, better problem solving, and deeper emotional intelligence. Studies from the University of California, Santa Barbara, found that people who engaged in more mind-wandering during simple tasks scored higher on tests of creative thinking. Their brains were not idle. They were recombining ideas, testing associations, playing with possibilities in ways that focused attention cannot achieve. Other research has linked healthy mind wandering to better emotional regulation and increased empathy. When the DMN is active, the brain simulates social scenarios, imagining how others feel, rehearsing conversations, processing unresolved emotions. This is not wasted time. It is the brain's way of maintaining your emotional and social world. But this only works when the wandering is voluntary, when it arises from safety, not from anxiety. Anxious rumination hijacks the DMN. Peaceful mind wandering nourishes it. Perhaps the most productive thing you can do right now is nothing at all. Let your mind wander like a leaf on a slow river. It is not going nowhere. It is going everywhere. Feel your eyelids grow heavy. The river is warm. The current is gentle. There is nowhere you need to be. Chronic vigilance. The inability to stop scanning for danger exhausts the brain's resources and suppresses the very networks needed for healing and rest. When the brain perceives constant threat, whether from a dangerous environment, chronic stress, or unresolved trauma, it stays locked in a state of hypervigilance. The amygdala remains activated. The sympathetic nervous system runs hot, and the default mode network, the prefrontal cortex, and the hippocampus, the regions responsible for creativity, planning, and memory consolidation, are all suppressed. The brain cannot rest because it does not trust the world to be safe. Over time, this chronic vigilance leads to exhaustion, cognitive decline, impaired immune function, and increased risk of anxiety and depression. Neuroscientist Stephen Porges, developer of polyvagal theory, describes this as a failure of neuroception, the brain's unconscious assessment of safety. When neuroception says danger, the body cannot heal. When it says safe, healing begins. You do not have to convince your brain to relax. You only have to give it enough quiet moments that it begins to believe. The danger has passed. Let this moment be one of those quiet moments. The room is still. The air is warm. Nothing is coming. Nothing is wrong. Epigenetics has revealed that the effects of trust and safety can be passed from parent to child, not through words, but through chemical marks on DNA. Epigenetics is the study of how environmental experiences change the way genes are expressed, without altering the DNA sequence itself. Chemical tags called methyl groups attach to specific genes, turning them up or down like volume knobs. And research has shown that experiences of safety, nurturing, and trust can influence these tags in ways that are passed to the next generation. At McGill University, researchers Michael Meany and Moshe Seif studied rats raised by attentive, licking and grooming mothers. These pups grew up calmer, with lower cortisol responses and better stress regulation. And when they became parents, they passed these traits to their own offspring, not through learned behavior, but through epigenetic marks on genes related to the stress response. The experience of being trusted and cared for had literally rewritten the instructions on their DNA. Perhaps every gentle touch you received as a child left a mark you cannot see. A chemical whisper on your genes that says you are safe. You are loved. You can rest. Let that whisper reach you now. It has been traveling through generations to find you here. Tonight. The McGill University studies by Meany and Sif showed that maternal care in early life changes the epigenetic profile of the stress response gene. And these changes can last a lifetime. The specific gene affected in the McGill studies was the glucocorticoid receptor gene, NR3C1, which plays a central role in how the body responds to cortisol. Rat pups who received more licking and grooming from their mothers had lower methylation of this gene, meaning it was more active. More active glucocorticoid receptors meant better cortisol regulation. These rats could turn off their stress response more efficiently. They were calmer, more exploratory, more resilient. Pups who received less care had higher methylation. Their stress gene was partially silenced, leaving them with elevated cortisol, heightened anxiety, and poorer health outcomes. Remarkably, cross-fostering experiments confirmed that it was the nurturing behavior, not genetics, that determined the epigenetic profile. A pup born to a low-care mother but raised by a high-care mother developed the calm, trusting profile. The body was listening, not to its genes, but to its experience of being held. You are not only the product of your DNA, you are the product of every hand that held you, every voice that soothed you, every moment someone chose to stay. Feel the weight of your body on the surface beneath you. You are being held right now by gravity, by warmth, by the memory of care. Epigenetic research suggests that healing in one generation can echo forward, that a parent who learns to feel safe may pass that safety to children not yet born. If trauma can be inherited through epigenetic marks, so can healing. Studies in both animal models and human populations suggest that when a person moves from chronic stress to a state of safety and trust, their epigenetic profile changes, and these changes can be transmitted to their offspring. A mother who receives therapy for PTSD, who learns to regulate her stress response, who builds secure relationships. She may be altering the methyl tags on her genes in ways that give her children a calmer baseline. This is not speculation. It is the emerging frontier of intergenerational neuroscience. The implication is profound. Healing is not selfish. Every moment of peace you create within yourself is a gift to people who do not yet exist. Every breath you take in safety is a message sent forward through time. Perhaps tonight, as you rest, you are not only healing yourself, you are writing a lullaby into your DNA. For someone who will hear it years from now, without knowing where it came from. Let your breath carry that lullaby. Slow, warm, steady. It does not need words. It only needs you to keep breathing. Gravity is the universe's oldest act of trust. Every object, with mass reaching toward every other, without hesitation, without condition. Gravity is not a force that pushes. It is a force that pulls, gently, ceaselessly, without exception. Every particle in the universe is attracted to every other particle. The apple falls toward the earth, and the earth falls toward the apple. The moon reaches for the planet, and the planet reaches back. This attraction has no off switch. It does not evaluate, negotiate. or withdraw. It simply exists. The universe's most fundamental expression of connection. Einstein reimagined gravity not as a force, but as a curvature of space-time itself. Mass tells space how to bend, and space tells mass how to move. In this picture, gravity is not something objects do. It is something the universe is, a built-in tendency toward togetherness. Perhaps gravity is the universe's way of saying nothing is meant to drift alone. Everything belongs somewhere. Everything is being pulled towards something that wants it close. Let your body feel heavy now, not with burden, but with belonging. Gravity is holding you the way it has held every star, every planet, every grain of sand. You are not falling. You are being gathered. The Earth has been orbiting the Sun for 4.5 billion years. A partnership so stable, so trusting, that it has never once faltered. 4.5 billion years. That is how long the Earth has been tracing its elliptical path around the Sun. A journey of 940 million kilometers, repeated every 365.25 days, with a precision that allows scientists to predict eclipses centuries in advance. The Earth does not speed up out of anxiety. It does not slow down out of doubt. It follows the curve that gravity has drawn for it, and it trusts the Sun to remain. In return, the Sun pours out energy, light, warmth, the raw material for every photosynthetic reaction that has ever fed a living thing. This is not a contractual relationship. It is an orbital dance, sustained by physics. Expressed as loyalty, the Earth has survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, and mass extinctions. And through all of it, the orbit held. Imagine the most reliable thing you have ever known. Now multiply it by 4.5 billion years. That is how the Earth feels about the Sun. Let your breathing trace a gentle orbit now. In and out, and in again. You have been doing this since the moment you were born, and you have never once forgotten how. The Moon's gravitational pull creates the tides, a twice-daily rhythm of advance and retreat that has rocked the Earth's oceans for over 4 billion years. The Moon does not touch the ocean. It does not need to. From 384,000 kilometers away, its gravity gently tugs on the Earth's water, creating a bulge that follows the Moon as the Earth rotates. This produces 2 high tides and 2 low tides every day, a rhythm so ancient and so reliable that life itself has adapted to it. Horseshoe crabs spawn at high tide. Certain corals release their eggs in synchrony with the lunar cycle. Intertidal creatures time their entire existence to the Moon's pull. The tides are not violent. They are not unpredictable. They are a conversation between 2 celestial bodies, one pulling, one responding, that has been going on for longer than life has existed on this planet. Perhaps the tides are the Earth's breathing. In and out, rise and fall, a rhythm so old that even the stones on the shore have memorized it. Let your breath become tidal. Let it rise and fall and rise again. You are not controlling it. You are joining a rhythm that began before anything had a name. Sleep is perhaps the most radical act of trust a living creature can perform. A voluntary surrender of consciousness to the unknown. Every animal that sleeps makes the same choice to become vulnerable. Eyes close, muscles relax. Awareness of the environment fades. For minutes or hours, the sleeper cannot defend itself. cannot flee, cannot even perceive approaching danger. And yet, sleep evolved independently in virtually every animal lineage studied, from jellyfish to elephants, from fruit flies to whales. It is so vital that no species has ever evolved to eliminate it entirely. The body trusts itself to heal during sleep. The brain trusts itself to consolidate memories, prune unnecessary connections, and restore chemical balance. And the organism as a whole trusts the world to remain safe long enough for this process to complete. Sleep is not the absence of activity. It is the presence of trust. Deep, embodied, ancient trust that says I can let go now. The world will still be here when I return. You are performing this act of trust right now. Every time your eyelids grow heavy, your body is saying, I believe in tomorrow. Let that belief settle into your bones. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands uncurl. You are safe enough to sleep, and that is enough. The moment you fall asleep is the moment your body decides. Without words, without logic, without proof, that the world can be trusted. There is a threshold, a precise, measurable moment, when wakefulness tips into sleep. Neuroscientists call it sleep onset, the transition from stage W to stage num. In that moment, the thalamus begins to gate sensory input. The prefrontal cortex quiets. Alpha waves dissolve into theta. The brainstem sleep centers take over, and consciousness softens. This transition cannot be forced. It can only be allowed. The harder you try to fall asleep, the more the brain interprets effort as vigilance, and vigilance as danger. Sleep comes only when the nervous system, through 1,000 tiny calculations of safety, decides that it is okay to stop watching. It is okay to stop listening. It is okay to dissolve. Falling asleep is the body's most honest verdict on the world safe enough, loved enough, held enough. And so, as this final fact comes to a close, perhaps you can feel it, that verdict forming somewhere beneath thought, beneath worry, beneath the day's last question. Your body is already deciding. Your breath is already slowing. The world has not changed, but your trust in it has deepened. Let the last of the waking world dissolve. You have carried enough today. Let the night carry you now. Trust is the oldest song the body knows. It was there before language. In the rhythm of a heartbeat heard through a womb, it was there before memory. In the warmth of skin pressed against skin, it was there before thought. In the chemical cascade that told a newborn's nervous system you are not alone. Tonight, we have traveled through the science of that song. We have traced it through oxytocin and cortisol, through the vagus nerve and the default mode network. We have found it in the forests, where trees share their sugar in the dark, in the oceans, where the moon pulls the tides with a faithfulness older than stone, in the cells of your body, where 37 trillion workers carry on without being asked, because they trust the system that holds them. Trust is not something you build. It is something you remember. It was woven into you before you had a name, in the methylation of your genes, in the firing of your mirror neurons, in the ancient bacterial friendship that powers every cell. And so, wherever you are tonight, in a bed, on a couch, in a room lit by the soft glow of a screen, you have permission to stop building. You have permission to stop proving. You have permission to stop watching the door. The door is closed. The room is warm. The world outside is still turning. Slowly, faithfully, the way it has for 4.5 billion years. You do not have to trust everything. You do not have to trust everyone. You only have to trust this moment. This single, quiet, unhurried moment. Enough to let your eyes close. Let your shoulders drop now. Not because you are told to, but because they are ready. Let your jaw soften. Let the space between your teeth widen just slightly. Let your hands go still, open or curled, however they want to be. And let your breath find its own rhythm. You do not have to breathe deeply. You do not have to breathe slowly. Just let your breath be whatever it wants to be. And trust it to carry you. You have listened long enough. You have held enough. You have been awake long enough. Now let the oldest song in your body sing you home. Trust the dark. Trust the quiet. Trust the warmth. And sleep well. Sleepy soul.